Welcome back. It's time to halt. The place chosen turned out to be quite a large glade with a few tree trunks laid in a half circle to make an improvised arbor, with the remains of the campfire in the middle. Obviously, such hikes are a tradition of this camp. I was sent to gather firewood together with the other boys. It didn't take long because there were a lot of branches and lots of various sizes lying around. Eventually, Olga lit the fire using some old newspapers. I was eager to know what was written there, but couldn't discern anything other than Soviet symbols. Pioneers took their places on the fallen log branches and started to talk about things. Seems that the final goal of this event had been achieved. The only things missing were a pot of fish soup, aluminum cups of vodka, and a guitar. I would not want a fish soup, but I wouldn't be surprised if all of these would appear somehow. "What are you thinking about?" Slavia sat next to me. "Oh, nothing special. Just enjoying the hike," I answered sarcastically. "You don't look too happy." "Well, I'm not about to jump for joy. Sorry about that." "Okay, I won't disturb you." She sat with me for a while, but after realizing that I wasn't in the mood for talking, she left me to enjoy my introspection alone. And all I wished for was to lie down in bed and fall asleep as soon as possible, but I was being surrounded by smoke and the useless chatter of pioneers around me instead. They were cheering and laughing, and in general enjoying the warm summer evening. In the far side of the glade, I noticed that Lena was arguing with Alyssa intensely, and Lena seemed like complete opposites to me. Blah. Slavia had left to go somewhere after our conversation, it seemed. Electronic and Shirk were trying furiously to prove something to Olga. Looks like I'm the only one who doesn't belong here. Let's see. I guess. I mean, I'm not going for either of them, so I'll just sit my happy butt down. All I was doing was just watching the fire. There's a saying that claimed that one could watch it forever, as well as running water. But there was also some third thing there. What was that? One could watch three things forever: burning fire, running water, and how other people work. Yes. The camp leader pulled me out of my daydreaming. "Semyon, don't you think it's too early to relax?" But what else would I need to do? I honestly couldn't get what Olga wanted from me. I don't know. She stopped for a moment. "But if there is something to be done, then do it without hesitation." She smiled ambiguously and went back to the fire to throw a few branches on. After those words, I am completely sure that she treats me like a personal slave. Or at least like I'm a free labor force, which is strictly speaking the same thing. I sighed and put my head down on my hands, hoping my torments would be over for today. Someone patted me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw Shirk and Electronic, who sat next to me. "What do you want?" I asked tiredly. "Don't be so sad. Is there anything better to do?"
Look, we've been discussing the possibilities for the advancements of the Cybernetics Club with Volga. And there is a problem. We need more guys. If you could."
He hesitated. Advancement and those guys are incompatible with each other. I said nothing and started to look over the pioneers around me instead.
Well,
"I don't have time. Can't you see that I'm always busy with the camp leader's errands?"
yeah, I guess you're right. It's kind of embarrassing how it all went today with Yulana.
I looked at him with surprise. Seems the Shirk blames himself for the cake incident. Yeah, it is. All the pioneers seemed to be here, but I couldn't spot Slavia anywhere.
I think she is angry with me.
"Who?" I asked absently.
Yulana. Maybe I should apologize?
"No, it's not your fault." We sat silently for a while, and I stood up and said, "My legs are numb. I better take a walk." They made no reply. I made a few circles around our improvised camp, noticing the close looks of the camp leader following me. Looks like Olga couldn't wait to come up with some kind of new task for me. I haven't found Slavia anywhere. I should go and try to find her. On the other hand, I felt sorry for Yulana every time I recalled her upset face. Maybe this hike isn't the most entertaining thing ever, but sitting there all alone isn't any better either. But at the same time, I didn't want to go anywhere. Why would I try to find Slavia? I will go to your ladder! I didn't think about Yulana that evening at all. That thing with the cake, like it didn't even happen. Though I remembered well her resentful, disappointed face. Maybe in some other situation, I would never have decided to go to her, but now a fine reason to leave this place and end this stupid hike has appeared. Recalling that Olga told me to be prepared for new tasks, I decided not to ask her for permission, and after choosing a proper moment, I disappeared in the woods. Night fell on the camp. I mentally thanked the camp leader for not researching the land too well, since this meant civilization was only a few hundred meters away. Another long walk through the night forest was not in my plans. Soon I came to the square and hesitated. Won't I look silly? What would I tell Yulana? Moreover, why would I go to see her in the first place? My head was so heavy and full that there was no room in it for the development of any ideas. If I would compare my brain at its prime to a broad highway full of speeding thoughts overtaking each other and causing giant chaos crashes, and now it's nothing but a forgotten tiny path in distant, desolate forest, which is only used in times of absolute necessity. So it's better not to think about anything and just act. But where should I go? Maybe to her cabin? And what if she's not there? All of a sudden, something knocked me down and I fell to the asphalt. It's a good thing I had time to stretch out my arms, otherwise I would have broken my nose. Gotcha! I quickly got up from the ground and saw Yulana standing before me. What are you doing? I couldn't stop myself from shouting despite my best efforts. You shouldn't be stargazing, she answered viciously. What if I had smashed my nose or had broken my arm? I said more calmly. Well, neither of those happened. Look, why do you always mock me? I already regret my decision to try and ease her loneliness. Was today's punishment not enough for you? Can you even draw simple conclusions? It's entirely your fault. The smile instantly disappeared from Yulana's face. What exactly is my fault? Everything! You mean I am to blame all the time? Yes! She crossed her hands in front of her chest and turned away. Great. I suddenly wanted to get away from this place as fast as possible. But it was all because of you I came here. What? I guess you were quite bored, given that everybody is hiking and you're alone here. I don't care, she yelled cheerfully. Well, if things are that way, what do you want to do? What do you mean? Well, if you came here because of me... Such a thought hadn't occurred to me, although I don't really know what I came here for. After such a greeting, I no longer want to do anything. Then it's up to me to choose, said Yulana cheerfully and started to think. I stared at her for some time and then couldn't stand it. Listen, if you're again planning something... I know! Let's scare the others. Dress up as ghosts, for example. It's going to be fun. I didn't find this funny in any way. Enough of that already. I began tiredly, but broke off. Maybe that's not such a bad idea. After all, by the time she thinks it over and gathers all she needs, Olga and the Pioneers will already be back. If I came here because of Yulana, then I need to play along. Perhaps you're right. What? She was looking at me with her eyes wide open. Are you going to agree just like that? Well, what's so wrong about it? And furthermore, if you insist. She studied me attentively for several seconds and rattled off. Excellent! Then we need some bed sheets. We want to look like real ghosts, don't we? Probably. You go get them, Yulana announced imperviously. Where do you think I'm going to get them? Take them from your cabin, obviously. It wasn't that obvious to me. So you don't want to? She instantly made a gloomy face. Okay, okay. I recalled the fact that there were spare sets of bed linen in Olga's cabin. So maybe there was nothing to worry about. We approached the camp leader's cabin, and I said to Yulana, wait for me here. Sir, yes, sir. She rattled off and saluted me. It seemed Yulana was entirely immersed in the game. I quickly found 2 clean bed sheets. It's a shame they are going to get smudged. Here, take it. Handed one of the bed sheets to her.
It's too large for me.
Yolanda said after twirling it in her hands. No wondering, considering her height. Give it to me. I folded the bed sheet in half and gave it back to her.
It's much better now. Follow me.
She put the white cloth over her head and ran to the forest. Wait! I threw myself after her. Just a few minutes later, we were near the pioneers' campfire, hiding behind the trees. Now it was clear that the trick, harmless at first, was taking an unpleasant twist. For some reason, I was sure from the start that the hike would end before Yolanda took any actions, and now we were standing 10 meters away from the pioneers, dressed in bed sheets. We didn't look frightening at all, rather we looked comical.
Get ready, on my command.
Wait. Actually, I was joking when I agreed to this. Then again, it won't do any good. You'll get yourself put under house arrest until the end of the shift, and so will I.
No retreat. No surrender. Are you ready? On the count of 3.
I started scrolling through all the possible outcomes in my head feverishly. There weren't many of them. First one, me and Yolanda run out from behind the trees and the pioneers start laughing, resulting in me getting a considerable scolding from the camp leader, and possibly something even worse. And Yolanda is sentenced to the lightest measure of punishment feasible under the laws of the pioneer camp. Highest. Second one, I stay here and observe with the others how Yolanda runs around the glade in a bedsheet. She is sentenced to the highest measure, like in the first option, and I stay in relative safety. Third one, I do everything possible to prevent her from committing this act of moral vandalism, and no one suffers but her self-esteem. It all could have gone so well, but either those thoughts took more than 3 seconds, or Yolanda shortened the count. So I hadn't managed to pull myself together in time when she sprang out from the glade, screaming inhumanly. As expected, all the pioneers laughed loudly. Someone even fell from the log he was sitting on and started rolling on the ground. Rufflecopter. I tried to save the day and yelled as loud as possible so Yolanda would hear me, but not the others.
Fool, stop it, come here.
Aw, fuck. I don't know whether it was my persuasion that worked, or Yolanda understood that her performance had failed, but she ran in my direction quickly and without pausing, hid herself in the forest. I didn't hesitate to follow her. Such a finale left a tiny chance that she won't be punished again. It's good that I didn't join in on the tragic-comical act. Now I need to find Yolanda. Turns out to not be that hard, as she hadn't managed to get far. Yolanda was sitting on a tree stump, crying. I stood still hesitating. Of course such an outcome was to be expected, but now I had absolutely no idea of what to do or how to comfort her. And besides, I'd gone back to the camp intentionally, and I had agreed in participating in that show, but it just got worse. As well as that, I was tired unto death. At that moment, I wished it would all just cease to exist. I just wanted to close my eyes and appear elsewhere, preferably in a quiet and peaceful place. But the sight of the sobbing Yolanda obliged me to take action. I walked up to her and sat down on the ground. Well, what were you expecting anyway? I began philosophically. It was sure to end this way.
You're to blame for everything. You.
Yolanda shouted in tears. So what would have changed if I had sprung out with you back there? We would both have been laughed at, that's all.
You always act this way. Always.
Her sobbing was becoming louder and louder, and then she suddenly rushed at me and started pouring on my chest with her fist, pounding. The hits were not hard. It was more likely an attempt to take out the despair that had gripped Yolanda than a real wish to beat me up. Calm down already, I said firmly. She stopped crying for a second and hugged me.
Maybe nothing would have changed. It would have been more comfortable for me if we went together.
I didn't know what to say, so I just patted her on the face. The head. I'm patting her on the face. I'm gonna smack her.
Can I stay like this for a bit longer?
Yeah. At that time, she didn't seem like a dangerously explosive nuclear reactor in the form of a little girl, but just like a little sister of mine who'd messed things up. I wasn't mad at her at all. On the contrary, it seemed I was beginning to care about the failure of the ghost play acting. It's alright. It's alright. We'll scare them properly next time.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer we sat in silence. Yolana stopped crying, and I didn't want to disturb her, as she had just calmed down. But I also had absolutely no desire to stay in the forest overnight. Hey, let's get back to the camp. I shook her shoulder gently, but there was no answer. Yolana had fallen asleep. Hey! I shook her harder. No effect. At that moment I wanted to cry. Why does this always happen to me? Why do I get caught up in these foolish situations, always and everywhere? Even having suddenly appeared in a weird pioneer camp in the middle of nowhere, I don't get to become a subject in an experiment, a victim of a sick cosmic mind, or a participant in an intergalactic war on the side of a group of suicide-prone pacifists like a regular hero of science fiction. No. Instead, I have to spend the night in a forest with a little girl in my arms who is muffled in a bedsheet. Next time, I'd rather have the monstrous experiments. I stood up and put the sleeping Yolana on my back. Maybe there was a way to wake her up, but firstly, I didn't want to, and secondly, one more burden or one less, at that point it made no difference. It's good that she's not heavy. At the square I stopped, put Yolana on a bench, and threw myself down beside her, totally exhausted. Even a little girl is hard to carry for a long time. The stars in the sky were shining brightly. Perhaps they give their light not only to me and this camp, but also shine on the city where I was born and where my old home is. It was as if a pain settled in my chest. I envisioned my old flat clearly, and a detestable burning started to make its way from my stomach to my throat. No, it was not wistfulness, more like a sad reminiscence, because despite all that's happened, I felt more alive in less than 5 days here than I had for the last several years there, and now I really wasn't sure I wanted to go back. Only one question still ate at me, how and why I ended up here. It flared up yet again in my mind. I haven't spent much time seeking answers or even just thinking about my situation lately. My thoughts were occupied with everyday, routine affairs. And now, in order to break away and be able to wish to stay here for good, I need to understand the nature of this place. It's just that even a nightingale in a golden cage has a right to know how and why, whose will he got in there. And after that, to make the choice whether to stay or not. Blah. I didn't know how much longer I would have been devoted to existential thoughts, but Yolana's loud snoring brought me back to reality. So small, but she snores so loudly. I sighed, put Yolana on my back again, and headed to her cabin. I had no desire to explain everything to Alyssa, so I just put the sleeping Yolana on the porch, knocked at the door, and left quickly. I approached Olga's cabin with mixed feelings. On the one hand, I had done what I intended to do. I had comforted and entertained Yolana. On the other hand, the two crumpled bedsheets in my hand looked more like rags left over from some worn-out straitjacket. I opened the door softly and went in. Semyon! Olga was sitting at the desk, and it seemed she had been waiting for me. Do you want to explain something to me? Well, just don't scold her again. It's my fault. Just like that, I became a hero, to my own surprise. My tongue acted faster than my thoughts. Perhaps some of my best traits, which even I wasn't aware of, have shown themselves. Humanity as opposed to common sense. Really? Having stated this, I chose to stick to my decision. Well, it's me who got the bed sheets, and I was standing behind a tree back then. Behind what tree? The camp leader looked at me in astonishment. So, what did you need bed sheets for? I realized my mistake. So, you are not talking about the forest thing. Semyon, I don't understand you. I want to know where you disappeared to so mysteriously during the hike. But now I would be interested in listening to your bedsheet story. But it was impossible that she and all the others hadn't seen Yolana's performance. The pioneers laughing out loud couldn't have been only my imagination. Olga, I'm serious. Didn't you see someone in a bedsheet spring out at you recently? So it was you? She gave me a close look. No, it wasn't me. Couldn't you tell just from my height? But you're holding the bedsheets. Yes. I couldn't understand if she was playing me for a fool, or she really didn't know this was all about. Olga, let's act like this conversation never happened. I'm too tired for today. Alright, go to bed. To my surprise, she readily agreed. Of course, I was astonished by such a reaction, but I decided to use the moment. I wrapped the blanket around myself and turned to face the wall, but I couldn't sleep. There were no thoughts, my head was aching, but I still couldn't manage to fall asleep. I rolled to the other side, and images of the day started to flash before my eyes. I shut my eyes tight to drive them away, but it didn't work. Suddenly, I heard a knocking at the window. Olga seemed to be asleep. I dressed myself and walked outside. Yulana was standing before me with a tricky smile. I'm gonna end the part there. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later. Peace.